And it says we're live. Wow. Good evening, everybody. So we are trying something new out tonight. We are going to go for a more not scripted show. Scripted's bad, but organized show instead of just kind of going off the cuff. So thank you all for joining us. We've got John Hunter here from SCCA. So let's start with some introductions. Trey, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you drive? What run groups do you drive in?
That's a leading.
How many Hondas do you own?
Leading question, leading the witness. How many Hondas do I own? It's like 6, and have possession of many Honda Power vehicles. I am a program lead in WDCR for Dominion and a board member, and also support John with the national events, and like to do fun stuff with cars.
Cool. Thank you. Patrick?
Hey, yeah, I'm Patrick Harvey. I compete in time trials also. I'm a WDCR member, and I drive a 2006 Miata.
With a K in it.
With a K in it, yeah.
Yeah. I'm Kevin Homan. I am also a WDCR member. I am Chief Competition Director, an instructor, and driver of the slowest Miata in the paddock. John, would you like to introduce yourself? Who the heck are you?
My name's John Hunter. I also drive a Miata. So I'm in on the whole slow car fast thing. Enjoyed it for many, many moons. I run the time trials program. I'm the time trials program manager for Sports Car Club of America, and Northwest region member and a Nebraska region member, because that's where I'm originally from. I love doing time attack. I love doing track days. I love doing autocross. I love driving cars. It's a hobby. It's a passion, and I love watching other people enjoy the passion. And yeah.
Go ahead, Trey.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit of your journey to like how you ended up working for SCCA National and developing new programs?
Oh man, that's can you start by just saying you tripped and fell forward into it? It's I was an autocrosser forever. I've always loved time attack. Didn't really have an option in my area. But got involved with the SCCA around, it was 2018, around that time. Started as an IC. Basically, started off with I wanted to get involved because I was planning to get involved with a solo program. I was actually I knew Howard Duncan was going to retire. I knew there was going to be an opening there. And I don't know what triggered the whole desire to like go do that, other than I loved watching people have a good time. I came from a business where people didn't want our product. They were forced to have our product. I was a state director for a company who put breathalyzers in people's cars after they got DUIs. And I was like, man, wouldn't it be fun to have a product that everybody wanted or wanted to, that actually they enjoyed. My love of cars and motorsport kind of led me towards SCCA. Started off as an IC, like I said, doing some copywriting, and I ran the starting line school for a while because I'd done some Evo instruction. I'd worked with starting line for a while, and I love teaching. I love helping people get faster, and started off there, and then became the partner relationship manager for a minute. And then started managing the Time Trials National Tour while John Krolowitz was the Time Trials program manager. And then when he went over to road racing, they decided to give me the helm of the entire ship on the Time Trials side, which is still debatable whether that was a smart move or not. I don't know if Hayward's fully come to realization on what he's done, but here we are. So
I'd say it's going pretty well.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, what's the starting line school? I've honestly never heard of that, John.
So Starting Line is a really, really cool thing still going on. Basically, it's imagine an Evo school for people who've never autocrossed before.
Okay.
It's the coolest thing about the school, and I've got a really fun story that involves Annie, my girlfriend. But anyways, it's a school that would work for somebody who's never autocrossed before to someone who's autocrossed for decades. It's you start off with an oval and a slalom in the morning, and you work that with an instructor, and in the afternoon you go to a full actual course. And basically what we're doing is we're teaching you, how to brake, how to accelerate, and where to look, right? Through the oval and the slalom, and then we put it all together in the afternoon. And it's the idea behind it is to help regions kind of grow and bring people in as well. So it's Evo School. If you've autocrossed forever, you know of Evo School, right? That people think they had, to go to national level autocross, you go to Evo School. This is just to like introduce people to autocross and make it make sense and make it easier to do it. And it's done a really good job of bringing in membership for regions. So we held, what was it, 25 starting lines, something like that, over the course of a year.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Is it still a thing?
Oh yeah, it's still running. I know, like when I was involved, we went to Crows with the San Francisco region twice a year, and I think I started limiting it to 24 students, but there was times where we had 36 students at an event. But we try to limit to 24 students because I would try to limit to 4 instructors as well. I wanted to have 2 guys and 2 gals as instructors. I thought that was really important. And then I also just wanted to make sure that each student got the individual attention that they really needed to kind of really to make it work. And the big thing is you changed your instructor. You didn't stick with the same one. You'd have 3 different instructors over the course of the day. And that way you had 3 different voices in your ear, because every instructor is going to speak differently, right? Yep. They're going to say things differently, and one might resonate with you better than another. I know for myself, I have a good friend of mine, Andy Hall, who's an Evo instructor. He is my, I would call my autocross muse. Whenever I need advice or need to talk to somebody, it doesn't even matter what he says. It's just the way he says it. And I'm like, oh, right. Okay. Yeah, got it. Some people just, when they say it, it just resonates for some reason.
With that school, do you guys do right seat stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that was a thing.
I didn't either. This is the first time I've heard of it.
You have to look into it. Tracy Lewis runs that for the solo program. It's all solo based, but we actually tried to incorporate it into kind of a track day situation and try to change the elements into kind of leaning towards track day a little bit. We only did it, I think, once or twice because it didn't work great. It would need some refinement. But the basics of what you learn does translate. It translates everywhere. I mean, you're working on braking and turning, and most importantly, eyes. So the things I always key in on, and this is motorsports in a nutshell: weight management and where you're looking. So learning how to manage the weight of the car with the brake pedal, the gas pedal, and then putting your eyes where you need to go. You master those 3 things, you're going to be fast.
So I think the autocrossers, especially somebody like you who started in autocrossing and then transitioned to more of a track day centric focus, you have such a unique nuance in explaining it to make it much more granular and defined than really how somebody who goes the opposite direction. And I do think one of the biggest, like autocrossers, I typically have to slow their hands down, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, they generally have all of the fundamentals already understood.
Really, because it's I always say you go 3 times faster on a road course, but everything happens 5 times faster at autocross.
Yeah.
If you can manage weight that quickly, that often. The first time I ever went to a track, I of course had a Miata. It was before I had the turbo on it. We were talking about turbo Miatas earlier. First time I went to a track, NA Miata, both aspiration and generation. And And the first time I hit the straightaway, I was literally like, what do I do with my hands? And I come to a corner and
Oh,
I
you
go to
point.
the first corner and I'm like, I have so much time
Yeah.
in this corner to just adjust the car. And like, it just like, it felt like everything. I had so much time to do everything. I could set up for a corner so much. It was like, oh, this is, and it was like, well, yeah, but road course is kind of boring compared to autocross when you're used to that. So,
Say it
So-
does come at you
different
quicker
challenge.
in autocross.
But I always tell autocrossers, because I've met several that, they get to nationals where we have some faster sweepers and stuff like that, and they're like, I'm just not used to speed. And in my head, I'm just like, what? But I'm like, go do track days. If you can go to a track day and you get used to going through sweepers and stuff like that at higher rates of speed, when you go to nationals, that slows down then for you in the same situation, and it makes you a better driver there too. So I'm a big proponent of going, doing
Cross-training.
both things. I don't
Yeah.
think time attack replaces autocross. I don't think autocross, vice versa. For myself, I will always do both. To me, they're completely different things, even though you're doing something similar in essence.
To not derail this too much, super curious question. How do you feel about drifting fitting in that matrix of cross training?
I think drifting's rad. I would actually like to go try some drifting. I think the car control is huge. I have friends that drift. I know them as drivers. They're tremendous drivers. And I think, if you can, having that car control in a slide, I mean, for myself, my instinct, the moment the car starts sliding out, is correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
leaning into like, I'm not going to correct, I'm going to hold this. And I'm used to doing that in the snow and gravel because I'm from
Yeah.
Nebraska and whatever. But no, I think drifting's awesome. I know people don't get it because it's the competitive side of it's weird for people. But I think it's art. I think it's something that's really cool to watch. Really cool. And I love the vibe. I love car culture. That's something where I'm actually working towards for the events and everything like that. So no, I totally get it.
That's the part that's so cool, right? Like, is the combination of, yes, a car is going to perform well, right? But it's also like an art, and your car should look good. It should be styled well, and then just like the vibe at grassroots events, non-competitive, just local events it's just immaculate.
Yeah,
It's really good.
I totally agree.
It's something I want to do. I want to take a bunch of instructors who have never drifted and like go to a drift event to like be instructed and learn a new thing and just see how terrible we are all at it. I'm very curious because we all think we're going to be the best and we're going to be terrible.
You're trained to fix the slide immediately. It's going to be hard to lean into. Yep, this is
you got to unlearn that. Do they do instruction at Drift Nirvana? Because they run a couple of Drift Nirvana events at Summit.
I don't know. We would have to call our resident slam dually redneck.
Who's our drift boy? Who's our drift boy in WDCR?
Yeah, we have a guy. Not to derail things too much.
No, that's okay. So should we do some quick automotive news and then hop into the main event of the night?
Sorry, I just read one of the comments from Facebook that John had hair under his hat this whole time.
I saw that one.
I laughed out loud. But little's there, yes. I've had hair.
So do we all watch the Rolex 24? Or did we just see it in memes and highlights?
You didn't watch any of it, John?
A little bit, yeah.
Memes and highlights. I've just been too busy. I
watched maybe 10 minutes of it.
Yeah. I would love to go there. I missed not watching it. I think we turned it on I had it on for about half an hour. It's about the time I could dedicate to it with the time I had, unfortunately.
Yeah. I guess it was really just one meme this year, right? It was the Corvette driver.
Yeah, it was.
Any other memes?
That and the Spec Me or the Global MX-5
Global MX-5 Cup
are the two things I know of it.
How many Miatas how much of the field got taken out in that accident? It looked like it was 70%.
It was 60%, something like that.
60%.
Halfish.
Apparently, Jack was telling me that after they did like 35 minutes of full course yellow to clean up, that the last 3 laps were really good racing.
Yeah.
Oh, they did. I didn't realize it was under. They didn't red flag it. They left it under yellow, and
Yeah. I didn't either because like I saw the wreck and I was like, okay, well, we're done.
Well, there might be a time constraint. I don't know how it blended into the next race or the next qualifying session or what it was. So they might have had a time
That's a
constraint.
good
Where
point.
it's like,
yeah.
this is the time you have. We're going to have to deal with what we get. So I've been there, done that.
Run under yellow for 35 minutes and then take it. Wow. Oh, let's see. Yeah, so we got the Corvette giving the middle finger. What, that was the BMW, right?
Yeah, BMW Corvette. That was what's his name? Oh man, I can't.
I don't even know who's in the Corvettes anymore.
You know,
Milner.
Oh, is it still Milner? I thought he retired. All
the
right.
only thing, the first thing I saw of it was actually the kind of juxtaposition of the Corvette driver to, and now I'm going to completely brain fart on the McQueen in Le Mans, where he's like doing the double finger thing, right? So it's not the middle finger.
Yeah.
And so in my head, every time I see the blip shift shirt or the picture that's been done, like I just think of like McQueen doing the thing, and I'm like,
You're really dating yourself there.
hey, I didn't see it live. Come on, man. I'm not that old. I mean, I am old, but not that old. I'm experienced. It's different.
Fair.
And Penske won again. I had Bathurst on the list because I think Andrew wanted to talk about that, but it must have happened.
It happened.
Yeah.
I watched about 20 minutes of it. And
they raced up and down a mountain in Australia. That's all.
Bathurst looks like it has a rad half a lap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like up the boring.
And then there's a lot of straightaway, which
just ruined cars. But yeah, I think like 1 through 8, like that looks like super fun up and down the hill, and then like just give me a cut over. I don't need the extra 2.5 miles.
But it is fun to watch. What I don't know what year that was, where the GTR finally came in, and it had like a bajillion horsepower compared to everything else. So like the race started, and then you just see this GTR just like
walked away,
just pulling away from everybody with like abandon.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh.
That wasn't that long ago, was it, John? Was that last? Was it 2 years?
No, the video came out like kind of
never asked the guy who thinks the 90s was 10 years ago if it was very long ago.
I don't feel like it was that long ago. I watched it.
What was it an R30? What was it, an R35 GTR or was it?
No, it was
R32.
Yeah.
Oh,
so it had to
like,
be
early
90s.
Yeah, that's early 90s.
But that's the thing. I don't think the race was then. I think it was later. I think it's because it's Okay, you guys are back. You guys all froze. So I was like, oh no.
Wow.
And all of you froze. So I was like, it's me.
I saw you go.
But I think it was just an older car in a newer race because they had not allowed the GTR to race, and so the car finally came over. You would think someone would be able to tell us.
No, I found it. It was last year. It's an R32 in Bathurst with like R35s behind it and modern cars.
Just absolutely gaps.
It did 203 miles an hour on the back straight. I'm out. That's too much.
That's fast.
That's like remember when the TR2 car came out?
Oh, that's
holy crap! That thing was like
the which car? I missed it.
We had a TA2.
TA2. I said TR2. Sorry.
Yeah, a TA2 like Trans Am tube chassis car. Making, I don't know, 800 or something. Even like my car's not slow, but it's not fast. But like I'm going into brakes in turn 1, and you check your mirror before you get on the brakes, and there's no car.
Yeah,
and then there's a car there.
And then there's just a car there
doing like 170 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I remember being in the paddock and like hearing it fire up and go for laps, and it was just like it sounded like America. It was just amazing.
You heard eagles and
and like it was beautiful.
Right.
The adjusting to the speed it ran up on you was mind-boggling for a little bit. So yeah.
That's that kind of thing is happening at Road Atlanta is why we tweaked how we do the national tours when it comes to experience level, and why we started putting in the advanced and intermediates together. Was we were at Road Atlanta one year, and it's when I was first running the tour, and we were doing strictly by experience, so advanced with advanced and intermediate, that kind of thing. And so in that situation, we had Sport 6 Miata on track with Kyle Carrick in his GTR.
Was that there?
And we had a full track. We had a full event.
Yeah.
I want to say, God, what were we? We were like 90-ish cars. I mean, it was full.
Yeah.
And Kyle went by the Miata, full clip on the back straight, coming down the hill, before the Miata even got to start his first lap. He was still on his gap lap, and Kyle was already passing him at full chat. And I was just like, we can't do that again. We're gonna have to figure out how to get the deltas down between groups. And the only thing that made sense to me, and I looked at it, I was like, you know what? Advanced drivers can run intermediate rules. If you're a truly advanced driver, that's not a problem. That it's not hard to point out a window, right? So if we can put them together, then we can start looking at, I now have twice as many people running times, and I can divide them in half and put a faster and a not as fast, we'll just call it not as fast group out there. And that reduces the deltas in the times. And we just really leaned into that over the years, to the point where at TTN this year, we had two groups running identical times. But one was a horsepower group, and the other was a momentum group, because I was starting to get comments of, yeah, we're running the same time, but we're doing it so differently, I can't get a really good gap. And so we started leaning into, how do the cars build speed? And it's easier when we have a huge event. When you have a smaller event, it becomes a little bit more difficult. But I work really hard leading into events to like take cars and take drivers and known quantities and move people around and put them in groups where I think it's going to make the most sense, and it's going to cause us to move people as little as possible once the event is started.
I think you do such a uniquely incredible job in that management, because it is so difficult, right? And like the cars building speed differently is something that previously, before like coming and helping you, has never been something that has been pointed out to me, but has obviously been a problem to me. And even being at one end of the group in car, it doesn't matter whether front or rear, it really, that problem goes away when cars build things the same way. And I initially personally was hesitant of like having to drive with like intermediates, but if you're on one side of the group or the other, which you will generally be, you're either a slow car in a fast group or a fast car in a slower group, it does just work. And like everybody plays so nicely. It was like NCM for TTN worked out so well. So I think that's incredible that you're able to manage that.
Yeah, my thought process is, if we do this well enough, and it's never going to be perfect, right? Because people make mistakes, but if you can make it so you don't have to do a pass, that's the point. Yeah. That's how you get laps, right? I mean, you can't get your best lap if you're passing somebody. I don't care how good that person gives you a point by. It's probably not going to happen. So the biggest thing is like trying to get it so that you don't have to do a pass, and then also making sure that the people, when they do mess up and they know that someone's going to catch them, just give it up, man.
Yeah.
Just, let it happen. And then it's the matter of, the difference between an awareness between an intermediate and advanced driver. And I lean into that with intermediate and advanced. I know, with you and James and talking to other DC folks, to them, there's also an element of speed that goes with advanced versus intermediate. And for me, it's more the awareness level. I want to, for me, when I'm doing a cool down lap, I'm looking in the rearview mirror almost more than I'm looking through the windshield. I'm speeding up every corner and I'm slowing down every straight, because I want to make sure that it's offline and it's out of the way if the session's still hot. And that to me is an advanced level.
No, I absolutely.
And that's where the intermediates are still learning, and that's where there has to be some grace, because everybody's trying to get to the same spot. Not everybody's in it.
Yeah, I mean, we're all learning. Even the fast guys are learning, right? And that's a thing Kevin has been preaching for the last year, is like that exact mentality. If you're on a straight, like offline, you're literally just sitting offline watching your mirrors and
Yeah.
figuring out a way to enable things. And then as soon as you come to the twisty bits, like watching mirrors, but you want to be basically at pace.
And it's figuring out how much you're going to have to speed up and when.
Yep.
Yeah.
Looking in the rearview mirror, seeing the cars coming and going, can I get through this corner before that car catches me or not? And obviously we know we don't want anybody to ever have to park on track, right? You don't ever want to slow down that much.
Yeah, no.
But the best way to describe it is, watch Formula One qualifying.
Yeah, you go to the past the apex on the inside, and you're home free, right?
Yeah.
If you can get there before they get to apex, it's not an issue.
Yeah.
So I think Kevin has a list here.
Yeah.
Do you want to take it, Kevin?
Sure. So time trials, big changes this year, huh, John?
Oh no, I mean it's pretty much rinse and repeat.
Oh, okay.
Last couple of years, I don't think I've really. There's really not much. I think
not much to talk about here.
No.
We can
name,
All right, let's go.
rules, all the stuff.
So I guess the big one, the first one is it's no longer the Time Trials National Tour. What is Time Trials now known as?
It is now the
2025?
Time Attack Challenge.
Time Attack Challenge.
And it is
what?
There's it's a beautiful dichotomy in what we did here. So the Time Attack Challenge, the reason we kind of went that way is, coming from the autocross world, looking at solo national tour, and watching regional participation in those events. And a lot of time you see people, they look at the word national tour and they go, oh, I can't go to that because I'm not fast enough. I'm not one of the top drivers in my region. I can't go to that. And there's nothing to do with that. It's still a fun event, right? And so I was getting some feedback that kind of persisted and that kind of existed for the time trials world as well. So I wanted to take the stigma away from, a national tour or some kind of like you should be an elevated driver for this. This is for everybody. This is just a fun event. It's a bunch of people getting together doing time attack and having a good time trying to set their new personal best or lap records or get on podium, whatever the case may be for that person. The other thing, one of the other bigger drivers on this is just Hayward put this beautifully, because it encapsulated what I was thinking with this is Google time trials car, then Google time attack car.
Yeah.
Which one speaks to what we're doing? And we were really the only ones calling it time trials. And that isolated us to some extent, and it made it harder for people to find us if they were getting into the idea of going to time attack. So I wanted to make sure that we became easy to find. I wanted to increase the opportunity for access. So brand recognition, all that kind of stuff was part of the big reason for the name to Time Attack Challenge. And then also, while I was preaching like we don't want it to be scary and we don't want people to be worried about the national tour thing, we also made it a series. And now you can actually win a series championship at the end of the year. Since we're not, I don't have a desire to make Time Trials Nationals a championship event specifically yet. I will never say never, but I did want to have a championship of sorts. I do think that's valuable. I think people would appreciate that. I think people enjoy that. So we decided to make the Time Attack Challenge a series where you can win a championship at the end of the year with accumulating at Time Trials Nationals, where there's extra points there that you can get, and you have to go to Time Trials Nationals to have that third final event for the championship. So
I like that.
I think it's going to be awesome. I think it drives everything in it follows the spirit very well and then adds a lot to it.
Now,
I think it's just going to be a lot easier to find us. It just, it increases brand recognition tenfold compared to what we were. It's kind of like when we, the whole idea of a track day versus track events. When it was being called track events, it was no one knows what a track event is. Like, what event is happening at the track? What's going on? When you call it a track day, everyone knows. Oh, I want to go do a track day. I mean, that's what we call it, right? So let's lean into common jargon and make sure that it's easy and understandable to follow.
Stop making sense, John. Now, do you expect or would you like to see the regions adopt the time attack name as well to get in alignment, or is that more just if they want to, cool, if not, no big deal?
That's the thing is the program will still continue to be called Time Trials. It's still going to be the Time Trials program. Regions, whichever way they want to lean, I'm good with it. Like I said, I think there's power in the branding and calling it Time Attack just to get people who are going for that, who are looking at other organizations that call it that, to come run with us as well. So I currently don't have a lean whether they should or shouldn't. I'm definitely not against it. So I think it's valuable all the way around. So
yeah,
I wouldn't doubt this I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of regions adopt the Time Attack nameplate as well. But the program will continue to be called Time Trials because that's it. The program is more than just Time Attack. Is what it boils down to. Yeah. Which we'll talk about some of it here in a little bit.
Why are you shaking your head, Patrick?
I totally agree with Time Attack. I think that our region should name our program Time Attack.
Because
I dig it. I mean, it's nail on the head, right? It's brand awareness. It's I mean, that's just what you refer to time trials as, right? Like that's what I called time trials before. I called it time trials.
Because that's the thing is when someone asks you what you're doing and you're like, oh, I'm going to go to time trials. They're like, what's that? You're like, it's Time Attack. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
It's that simple, right?
Yeah. Okay. Alleviate the question.
Easy peasy.
The question.
So we had, a name brand change. We also had some pretty crazy classing changes.
Oh, I mean,
crazy is probably too strong of a word.
No, you're kind of right. There's a lot of change.
I mean, Max is a wholesale change.
Max is change.
Yeah.
To me, on paper, it mostly makes sense. I would like your hot take of. I know I've seen some of the numbers with like actual turnout in Max versus Unlimited and where cars actually fall for a lot of things. I have a feeling what I think is going to be the most contentious, but of all the restructuring, what do you think is going to be the hot class to watch, and how did you get there?
My goal kind of is to have no one Max class really be the hot class to watch as much anymore. Like Max 1 is always going to be kind of like because of the speed of the cars and some of the stuff there, that's going to be a thing, right? I'm going to take a step back to get to that question, and remind me to get to that question if I don't. I didn't take my ADD meds today, and I might talk that way, so I apologize. But the whole thing with Max started with simplify and add lightness. And what I mean by that is make it easier to read when you look at the website. So my goal is just make it make sense, like we've talked about, right? I don't know if I nailed that on the head yet. But the other thing that I was looking at is, the weights for a lot of classes kind of antiquated for modern cars. Looking at, Max 5 minimum weight with driver was 1,900 pounds, if I remember correctly, or was it 20? Yeah, something like that. It was light enough that there's 3 cars in existence that I can think of that will work in that class. And they're all getting older. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then Max 4 wasn't that much heavier. And it was like, these weights, I get where we're coming from, but they're not modern. And so I started looking at other sanctioning bodies, like what are their weights at? What are they doing? And I started looking at cars that were participating with us, and what are the weights of those cars that are coming out with us? And you can't just look at where you're at. You also have to look at what you think is going to happen in the future, right? And I'm looking at like the really popular cars now that I think are going to be the Miatas of the future and that kind of thing. And going, okay, well, this 25, 50 pound weight, that you see for the Club TR, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense in a lot of ways. Okay, let's make that a weight for this class. But why have one weight for a class when you have different displacements making different powers and different ways to make powers, especially when you add turbo cars in? So I was like, I want to see parity in classes. I want to see different approaches. I wanted people to go, okay, they built that car that way. What if I build this car this way? And can I compete? And so that's kind of where I went for. And I went for the only class that's not like that in full. I totally understand this is Max 3. Max 3 is specifically the
Type
big
art.
class.
Yeah.
That's who it's for. I mean, if you look at all the modern Mustangs, Camaros, all those cars, they're all heavy, like that what is it, 3,800 pounds. And I've talking to a few people shops, a lot of Max 3 cars are getting built right now that did not exist before. Is now they have a place where they feel like they can compete, where before they're going up against C5 Corvettes. And they're like, this is not going to happen, right? But now they can, it's like Trans Am of the 60s.
Yeah.
You're going to have the big boys out there competing against each other, and it's going to be pretty rad to see these Mustangs and Camaros with aero and all this stuff going on and having a good time. And so Max 5, I looked at our Max 5 numbers. The new Max 5, I looked at the existing Max 5 and looked at Max 4. And the existing Max 5 that we had, at least on the national level, we had, like 5 to 7 cars or
all year
came out. I want to say I had under over 2 years, each year we had under double-digit participation. I think one year we had 12. The year we had 12, it was a co-driven car coming out 3 times.
Yeah. The old Max 5 sat in a really weird area in where displacement didn't totally make sense to what people would do to a car. And then the availability of the cars and what you would do to like an NA and B Miata, it's not where
what's weird is like those cars existed, they run a NASA TT6 or whatever, right? There's a ton of NA Miatas running the stock powertrain with aero right now, but they didn't come over to us.
Interesting.
And if we don't see them, why do we have a space that no one built the boogeyman for that one except for Hollis?
Yeah,
he had the B8, the B18, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, we had 70. Max 4 was actually my highest subscribed class for the last 2 years in Max. Max 1 was close, believe it or not. Max 1 grew big time. But Max 4 was highest. And what was crazy was only 2 of them until this year, Mr. Harvey, until actually, no, I take that back. Until this year, only one of those cars had a K.
Really? Just Josh?
Yep.
Wow.
Everything else.
No. Okay. Come on. Did you just forget about me?
Yeah. No. Okay. So I was right with the initial 2. I was right with the initial 2. But the majority of the cars that were running in Max 4 were twins.
Yeah.
We had a ton of twins. We had some S2000s. We had
I guess you couldn't do an E36.
The NC.
NCs, yeah.
With the 2.5 swap. And so you look at their weights.
Yeah, 25,
none
50,
of them are light.
26, 2,700 pounds.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, if I get a ton of participation here, you can still place her. And that's the thing is like, I heard the argument. I've heard a bunch of different arguments here. Like one, you made it a K-swap class.
It's not.
It wasn't before. Like I said, until this last, like when Patrick showed up this year with his K, we had Josh there. I want to say I might have had 3, including you 2, Josh, 3, maybe 4 Ks the entire year, right?
Yeah, that's it.
The vast majority of the rest of the cars were twins, whether it be the first gen or the second gen. Now, does the second gen inherently have an advantage over the first gen? Yeah, it does. But now with the way I wrote it, I don't know if anybody caught the little USDM thing. that allows M3s in.
Interesting.
So now you have S2000s, M3s, second gen and first gen twins,
Yeah.
K swaps. Other than and Patrick's going to be one of the lighter options out there. The NC car.
Yeah. And you can. Very curious to see how much weight we could take out of Andrew's car, but like we do have a local who's back or updating in a first gen to a FA24.
And see, that's going to be just as popular as a K swap. And the other thing that I don't, if you guys
might make more power.
The other swap that's becoming popular, or I should say that's starting to happen, is the 1.5 Honda turbo swaps.
I almost
and
bought
it makes
one
about
the
the same
day.
power as a K.
Yeah.
And if you look at the rules, I put that in there the same way. Maybe a little heavier. And so I just looked at what's going on.
Yeah.
And then what's going on and what I think is going to happen in the future. And no one has a crystal ball, right? But I wanted to make a little bit more future proof, and that's why the weights went up. Because the lightweight cars they're going away. It's getting harder and harder to keep them together because they've existed for 30 some years already. I mean, when a Honda Civic goes off track at VIR, hits a bump, comes back, and the whole chassis bent.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Right?
It's probably time.
So, and then Max 4 becomes kind of like the Evo and the medium displacement. So like boost buggies and medium displacement V6s and that kind of class.
Yeah.
And there's lots of ways to build a car there. I'm waiting to see a Boogeyman get built there. And that's the thing is when we see a Boogeyman get built, we'll figure it out. I'm not going to just, ixnay a car, right? But at the same time, we want to keep parity. So we'll make adjustments as need be. But the big thing is I do want to slow the roll. Like I realized, between Max and, Sport the 2 years before with the reshuffle and tuner changes this year and Max, there's been some significant change. So we need to pull the reins in a little bit and let things play out for a hot minute.
You feel like it's
move forward.
Steady for a while.
So you had talked about a previous hot take Max 4 car. Don't have to give that out, but okay. Now that the classing structure has changed, in any of the Max classes, what are you looking at? That's like kind of not being campaigned. Like, what would you build?
What would I build? That's the thing is, and someone's going to tell me I'm wrong because that's how this works, right?
Yeah.
But I think now we're at a point where it doesn't matter which Max class you choose other than Max 3, you could go multiple different directions. And I don't think I have a perfect car for any class like Max 5 personally, because I hosed myself and my ND will never be able to run a Max 5 because it's too light. One of the few cars that's actually kind of light that's modern. I love the second gen twins, and I don't know if I do. I'm probably smarter to do a first gen twin. When I debated getting rid of my car, I thought about like maybe a first gen twin with the newer Scooby motor swap in it, because I'm like, those are just amazing cars.
And they've got some car. Like
they're so cheap now.
You can buy a first gen that's in good shape but blown up for sub $5,000. And I've seen FA24s that are being pulled out for also sub 5, and it's a direct swap.
Mm-hmm.
Like you change some sensors over.
You don't have to put a K into one. So there's just, it's kind of like, I want this whole thing. Max, I think JK hit the nail on the head when he coined Max this way. And I think we still lean into that. I don't think we went away from that. Is Max is for dream cars built or bought.
Yeah.
And now I hope the intent was to increase the level of I can build this, increase the options of I can build this, and the at least perception that you're going to be competitive, whether you will be or not. My hope is like you can see multiple avenues within one Max category, one Max class, where you're like, okay, I've got a chance with this build.
Yeah.
No, it's especially in 5 and in 1. Like there's definitely two very apparent and then like three other sub-apparent ways to slice a car that fits your choice. And I know of 3 or 4 people who are actually focusing like the Max 5, the like built 1.8 type situation, low weight,
Yeah.
2,200 pounds. And I'm very curious with the tracks.
It's good. There's going to be some track dependency. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't fix that.
Yeah. I think the torquey cars, the heavier cars are going to win at like places like Road America. You go to somewhere like NC Car, I don't think it's going to, or NC Car, NCM. I don't think it's going to matter. Like the power really
Well,
is.
that's the thing is like a built motor, and this is the thing, like, this was a debate I heard from 2 different sides here when it was the possibility of a K going against a built B series. And the thing is, like, if you build a motor and you increase the horsepower a lot, you typically don't get a lot of area under the table. It's not like a turbo motor. Like, you are shifting your power band to a direction. And you'll get more horsepower, but it's not like a B18 all of a sudden makes 250 foot-pounds of torque. That's not where it's going to live.
Yeah. And money.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the thing. That's the other thing in you just don't see as many built motors anymore either. Because especially at the level that we consider built.
Yeah.
It's you don't have a lot of, it's not like a simple, I'm going to do a cam swap, I'm good. Well, that's built. So, and the cost per benefit ratio favors going
stock
or boosted.
Yeah.
One or the other, right? And that's part of the reason, like with the boosted cars, we kind of went away from, we wanted to go, okay, if you're going to have a turbo, we're just going to presume you're fully done. Aftermarket turbos, built motor, all that kind of stuff. Because we still have a few places where the stock boosty boys play, obviously, but I know I made some super folks a little disappointed with how we treated the 3 liters.
They'll live with it.
But part of the reason for that is, like, there's some really questionable things with our rules and their mods that go on that it just made sense. And the supers are, if we're going to call it a car, talk about a car that punches above its weight. It's like the second gen twin. It does so much so well that it's a Max 1 car. It's just a phenomenal car.
It is.
Before I hand it back over to Kevin, I have 2 more questions. Do you think like the weight modifier and how it escalates in the way that it currently does is actually valid? It seems like if you were to be a sub 2,200 pound car, you're going to instantly end up in Max 2.
Sorry. Okay. Say that again.
So the weight modifier currently, basically, if you're like a K24 but sub 2,200 pounds, like that car defaults to Max 2, I think.
Yeah, if it's stupid, like, I think it's Max 2, and then there's only so much you can bump before it's like off to unlimited. You go.
Yeah. Because you have the 95% of curb rule.
Actually, no.
That's gone, right?
That's gone.
Is that gone?
Yeah. So also that rule
totally missed that.
I feel like that rule can't be valid when you have a factory delivered car that's 2,200 pounds.
Right. So yeah, and it's part of the reason we did the weights that we did, especially in Max 2, was I didn't look at things in a vacuum. And one of the things we were doing is, like I said, trying to create cross-pollination, not only between our program and other programs out there that do time attack, but also within programs within the SCCA, right? And so we looked heavy at the CAM and XS cars.
Yeah.
And Max 2 is kind of where CAM and XS cars live. So if you look at the weights and you look at the rules, there's a pretty easy crossover for those cars. So if you have a car that, if you have a XB autocross car, kind of going to be in Max 2. And here's the thing, especially if we're talking boosted motors, I know a lot of the boosted motor 1.8 liter Miatas don't make this kind of power, but in the autocross world, I know of a car that's nicknamed La Fonda that thing makes more than 500 horsepower at the wheels.
Oof.
I mean, it weighs Miata weights. That's why it's a Max 2.
So much power.
It's
for me.
wheel limited. And
Yeah.
and by that I mean, of course, we got Vitours. Yes, they're legal now and they go wide. They don't go tall. It's hard to get a tall tire on a first or second gen Miata. It's been done with a lot of work, but you can create a lot of longitudinal grip. But trying to put power down in a small diameter tire, you just don't get the rollout. So it's harder to get the power down. So that's kind of a yin and yang situation there in Max 2, and that's another thing where it's like, what do you want to build? Do you want to build a light and boosty, little tiny car, or do you want to build, a C5 Vet or a cam car, that kind of thing? There's so many ways to attack it, and it might depend on the region you're in and where you're at and what tracks are in that area and that kind of thing, and then see how it plays out at the National Tour events or the Time Attack Challenge events. Even I have to get used to it, right?
I think it's a really elegant solution because, like, SCCA traditionally with road racing, they limit speed by two ways in its wheel width and throttle body or restrictor plates. And you're kind of doing neither, but also doing it at the same way because these cars can't physically run these wheels.
Right.
And that's very, very intriguing to me.
Yeah, because you can flare a car, you can do all that kind of stuff. You can go wider, right? But
Can't get caught.
at a certain point, you need diameter to put power down.
Yeah,
that's
and
why the ND is a great car. That could be a good Max 2 car down the road.
You think so?
Yeah.
It can. I'm running 17s right now. Think about the size with flares and a boosted motor.
You'd have to go 18s though.
Not
Yeah,
really.
to get much larger than like a 255, right? You'd have to go like 18, which is completely doable on an ND, I think, in a 10
could
or
be.
11.
Yeah. But either way, the thing is, like, that's what I'm trying to get with this. Notice we're starting to talk like, what can we do here? Would this work? And that's to me, that's also part of the fun. And the other thing is now, hopefully, someone who has a car that they love doesn't feel like they can't compete.
Yeah,
if they want to compete at this level. If they want to build a time attack car with the aero and all this stuff, they go, okay, I have a place where it might be an uphill battle, but I'm going to go for it.
Yeah,
I'm starting to have fun regardless.
I'm starting to kick myself because instead of buying a replacement K24, I did look at L15s, and I was like, now that Hasport has like a swap kit, and I could just do this and use a stock ECU. It's like I really thought about it, and then I just bought a K24.
Sell the K.
I don't know.
It's not too late.
But that's your game, Trey, is buying Ks.
Yeah, buying Ks.
You're a little K boy.
Yeah, that's so I know we very quickly are starting to run out of time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we want to go to the next big announcement that came out of TT and talk about Targa?
Yeah. Oh, Targa. Yes, let's talk about Targa.
Let's talk about Targa. What is Targa, John?
Oh, I don't even know. No, the easiest way to describe it is if anybody here has ever looked at or followed One Lap of America, it's essentially a mini One Lap of America.
Yeah.
All three Targas that we're doing this year, we got Texas Land Targa, Southland Targa, and Chicagoland Targa. All three of them are going to be a 5-day event where you're going to get 4 different tracks. And you're not going to do just track stuff. You get so we'll take CMP is closest to y'all. So we'll take CMP, the Southland Targa event. Southland Targa is going to start off at Atlanta Motorsport Park, where you get 2 practice sessions, and then you get 2 sessions of 3 flying laps. And they're going to be cumulative. It's not going to be your single fastest. It'll be a cumulative situation.
Okay.
The idea there, you get 2 practices and 2 sessions because you're going to have a co-driver to do this event. And that is, then it becomes up to you. Do you want to split the track time with your co-driver, or does one driver want to take one track and the other driver take another track? Or maybe one driver does the transits and the other driver does all the track types. However you guys want to play it, that's cool. So you start at Atlanta Motorsport Park. The next day we go to Road Atlanta. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with a quick autocross in the pro pits. We're going to do, I think 6 runs is the goal. So 3 runs per driver if you want to work it out that way. And then we'll move on to on-track shenanigans at Road Atlanta. Once we get done there, we're going to transfer over to NC Car on Friday, where you'll be at NC Car on Friday. You run NC Car. And then once we're done at NC Car, you go over to CMP, and the person who signs up for Targa, the main driver, that person gets automatically entered into the time attack at CMP. The co-driver can then enter the time attack as well, and they can enter in their own car. They can enter as the co-driver in that same car. They can do it however they want. So you can have 2 people planning to go to CMP, one team up and do the Targa because the car is more comfortable and more fun. Yeah. And then the person who has the car that is not street legal or whatever can jump into their own car for the time attack and do that one. But the scoring continues into the time attack, but the scoring follows the car, not the driver. So if both drivers stay in the car, we take the fastest lap from the car on Saturday out of the drivers, that kind of thing. So it becomes this one big long mini lap of America, but it's, one lap of the region, kind of, so to speak. So Texas Land is going to be, we're going to start at MSR Crescent, which is a cool little track. And then we'll go down to Harris Hill. We'll do an autocross at Harris Hill, and we'll do Harris Hill on Thursday. Right now we're aiming to go up to G2 on Friday. We got to get some stuff done with some approvals for safety and stuff like that. We're working really hard with the track to get that knocked out. And then we go to Eagles Canyon, which if you have not been to Eagles Canyon and you're close enough to even think about going, I'm telling you, do it. Most people have never heard of the track, but it is an amazingly fun track to drive. Yeah, really, really good track. So it ends up there. And then the Chicagoland one, we actually, hoping I can say this, because there's a reason Targas haven't happened since 2018 is because it's a constant moving target with the tracks, because you can't sign a contract until you have everything lined up. And while you're lining up the contracts, all of a sudden one drops away and you have to try to figure things out. So Chicagoland Targa, I think every track except for the main track, which is Audubon, and the Friday track, which is Gingerman, the other 2 tracks have changed multiple times. Just today, I think we've got it nailed down. Wednesday, we're going to start at Audubon on the North Course.
Oh, okay.
Go to Putnam on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Up to Tire Rack late on Thursday, where we're going to have a little social hour, maybe some other fun things that I can't talk about just yet. Friday morning, an autocross at Tire Rack. And then we're going to jump up to Gingerman real quick and get your laps in at Gingerman, and then get back to Audubon to run Audubon South for the time attack challenge.
That sounds
like going to be awesome.
Sounds, yeah.
It's so I learned about Targa in like 2017 era, and I was like, this is the coolest thing on paper I have ever seen. Like, it's more interesting than one lap to me, and I've always wanted to do it. And then like it was like, okay, 2018, like I got a car, I tested the car, and then Targa went away. And it's like I've been pushing regionally to do something like that, because we do have a region where it is feasible with the locality that we're in. And it's like you said, it's a lot of moving parts. It's a hard thing to just even talk about.
Well, because you got to have, and people, one of the things that I find that some people don't fully understand is like, it's not like you can call up the track and go, hey, can I have this date? And they're like, sure. No, there's people that have like standing dates.
Yep.
And you're not the only renter. Like there's basically every weekend's usually taken up for most tracks. So trying to get in on a date, first of all, you have to wait your turn. And then weekdays are a little bit easier, but even those days are usually taken. So trying to line up a track, you have the weekend, but then trying to find tracks around that have the other days that you need. Becomes just this whole like constant 3D puzzle thing of trying to get everything locked in and put together. And for some reason, we decided to do 3 this year. Which I'm excited and I'm happy about. I think it's going to be awesome, and I think people who don't go do one are going to miss out greatly. I got to do one in 2018. as to help out.
Co-drive or
I
transit?
I drove the SCCA's Turbo 4 Camaro that they had when they first got it. I got to do Target in that car because I was co-driving with, since I was running the Starting Lane program, we had there was a journalist out of the Carolina area that was going to do a story on it. He became my co-driver, and my job was to coach him.
Okay.
Because he'd
That's
never
awesome.
driven on track.
Yeah.
He never autocrossed.
This
So
was
I
in
was teaching that person and coaching that person through autocrossing and track driving while also sharing driving duties with that person.
that's awesome. And that was in like a 6th gen turbo 4-cylinder Camaro.
Yeah, it was in a turbo 4-cylinder, and it was a good time. It was that car was, they're good chassis. The window scared me.
I can
So-
get in and out of that window with a helmet on.
Back to the scheduling real quick, John. All I imagine the scheduling was like if any of you have seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the Pepe Sylvia scene, where it's just all, like I cannot imagine trying to schedule 4 or 5 tracks multiple days in a row and finding, oh great, like they're all open for us. Like
The funny
and
part
then
is
doing that 2 more times around the
funny
country.
part is you put it in past tense. Like literally, I'm going to tell you right now, like the whole Audubon North and Putnam moving to Thursday, that's a today thing. That's a today thing. And we're still like trying to nail down, G2 and make sure that we can go there, that the track is certified and stuff like that. And I have every confidence it will. And if it doesn't, we have backups in place. But the only one that felt pretty certain was Southland. And then the track manager position has changed at Road Atlanta, and so there's still some like, is this going to be, because we hadn't got the contracts yet, and we had some things built around that. So like I said, it's still a constantly moving target to this day. People thought I got a haircut. It's just
I know there's a bunch of us from this area who are really looking at Southland and want to be a part of that Targa, because it's tracks we know, it's a badass situation, and we're all going to be at CMP anyways.
Yeah, it's like I said, the coolest thing is and there will be the whole road rally thing is more of a social thing. They're going to have, and it's not going to be like it's going to be a competition, but it's for fun, right? So like I literally put in the article or put in a thing I put up on Facebook on the website, and I've talked about this on a couple forums, like jokingly, like you might get extra points if you bring the event lead coffee in the morning.
So
and if you show up with an obvious overdog in the classes that we made, everybody else competing against you might get bonus points for not. And so that's the thing, is like it's all going to be like, and there's going to be points for social media stuff, and that's where the road rally stuff comes in. To me, it's more of a social media road rally. Picture of your car with this hashtag SCCA Targa, hashtag SCCA time attack, that kind of thing. Just want to make it fun.
I might be the most biased person in this, in like the Targa situation. I think the road rally honestly excites me way more than a lot of the other things.
Yeah, I just want to do the drive.
I'm a nerd.
I'm a road trip person.
And I'm like, oh, we have to go from here to here at the speed limit, and it takes this amount of time. It's this many. I will do that math, and I will smack the driver. Like that is actually exciting to me.
I don't want to disappoint you, but I don't plan on doing any time distance stuff.
I know,
sorry,
but I know it's a very small market, but I do find it incredibly interesting.
Yeah,
because I'm also
and maybe that's a pivot. That's one of the things, is like this is a first year. We don't want to have it just be a 1-year thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it plays out, and maybe we pivot and add that thing in next year. Maybe we add it to one of the events over the course of the year. We'll see how it all goes, but
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm excited for the year. I think all these changes are going to be great. It should be a really good year and a busy year.
Is it Kevin? I think it's you and I had this conversation. You guys are going to do a Max 6 class.
Yeah.
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 No, and I want anybody who's watching this that is involved in a region, please understand I'm all for it. Like, show me the data. Tell me that Max 6, that old Max 5 still exists. And we'll figure it out. I don't plan on adding classes. I don't want to add classes, but I do think regions should have that class if the cars exist in that area. Don't turn people away because you don't have a place where they're happy to play. It's just like autocross. A region can have their own unique autocross class. Go for it. Do your thing. As long as it's within the safety rules and everything like that.
And this is actually our second. This is our second regional class because we have unlimited prototypes too.
Yeah. And I think this kind of came out of like we have a very big program, but we also have a huge amount of like NA and B Miatas, and then some older cars like our Sentra and like shitty old Civics, where they don't fit in sport or tuner legally. Like, let's find a place for these geriatric basket cases to exist. And I'm curious to see where it goes.
What's that, Patrick?
Yeah, just let them go play. Just send them out to the field.
Until their motors finally just let it go.
Just give it up.
Yeah.
Ooh, that SR20 is going to be lasting all season. We're good. That's the pinnacle of Nissan engineering. But yeah, I don't think National needs more classes, but the idea came from like, what do we have here regionally, and how do we create good competition, within the people who really do want to drive TT and are being turned away from it because they don't have a place where they arguably can even compete.
Right. No, I'm all for that. It's being as inclusive as we possibly can. Do what you can as a region to run. We have regions that run power to weight classes.
Yeah,
I don't. It's not a path I want people to go down because it makes it hard to bring the tour there. Not the tour. Sorry, the Time Attack Challenge there. I gotta get better about that.
You need to make a swear jar. It'll just be the Time Attack TT Nationals.
I used to.
Every time you say it.
This is the first time I've actually had a problem with this, which is weird. But no, it's do what you got to do to grow the region and do your thing. It all makes sense. Work with other regions, hold events together. That's the one thing. Like, this is kind of a regional podcast, so I haven't like really gone down the route. But like I've said during the convention, like one of the things I want to do is I want to do a lot of podcasts this year. And in the podcast, not only do I want to talk about what we're doing with the Time Attack Challenge and that stuff and get people to come out, but I want to talk about regions. Yeah, because I'm like, a lot of regions, you guys included, have events that are just as big as the Time Attack Challenge when it comes to car count. There's lots of competition out there. There's lots of competition out there with the regional events with the SCCA. I can name a bunch of regions off that can provide that for folks. So they don't have to wait for a big national event, whether it's us or somebody else, to come through to run one time a year. Go run all year long.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to grow. I want to grow the regions and make sure people know that their SCCA has regional events that they can go to and they can go do and have a good time. So
yeah, that's one of the things I want to involve. We have North and South, which are both relatively large regions. We have like South Jersey and Steel Cities and North Carolina, which all have, I don't think Jersey they might have a standalone program, but we have the Steel Cities event. We have North Carolina has their standalone events. That's a division. Like, let's do things together and let's have fun. We definitely have an outlier of a program and how we have done things historically, but that doesn't mean there can't be changes. And, there's always want to be better.
I was really hoping the New Jersey thing would come together.
I know. Maybe
maybe next year. I've got some plans already in brewing for next year. I'm already working on next year's schedule. I haven't even started this year and I'm already working on it.
Envy you, but don't. It seems like a lot. So I think I don't have anything else.
No.
John, you have anything else you want to bring up or talk about? I know Kevin has one outlying question.
I don't think I have anything specific. I think we covered a lot of things. No,
How do we-
I'm good for any questions, any additional stuff. I know we've run long, and I know
It's all-
no one here who knows me is shocked by this because I can pontificate with the
This
best.
is par for the course for this podcast.
Yeah.
Usually
But that's the thing is like if a good podcast is a bunch of friends getting around and talking, right?
Yeah.
So it works.
Trying to find that balance of free form and a little bit of substance.
How do
No,
we
we were
That sounds
going
like
to
my
joke with
program
you
in a
about.
nutshell.
Yeah, yeah. We were going to joke with you about the Vitor, because that was obviously the hot top. That was last year's hot topic was the Vitor, but
There's God that what a layered situation that all was. Props to Dallas for for the work he put in, and kind of fixing what was going on with both the optics and literally how things were being done on that side.
yeah,
So no, it was one of those things where it's been a layered thing, and we're watching things happen. We had some certain metrics we wanted to see happen with Vitor that would give us comfort that we could include them as a tire, and we saw all those come together. And I pulled the trigger before one was official. It's still not really official yet, but it's literally just a matter of time. It's already pretty much done. I can't talk about it yet, obviously, because it's not done. But at that point, I was like, you know what? If this tire, and that's the other thing is we talked all last year. We were waiting to see data. We wanted to make sure that the tire could be bought in the right, it wasn't going to run out. And I really don't care about pace, but I do care about longevity. I didn't want to have a tire come out and be super fast and give everybody, one weekend.
Yeah.
And it looked like this tire has some longevity to it. So I was like, okay, it looks like it's a player in the field. They're serious about it. They're investing into it. And so the things kind of came together, and it's honestly, I got to see a lot of conversation between, Hayward and the actual president of Vitor, and talking about, this is things that we need to see to be comfortable. And they were more than willing to make those things happen. And it's just to show up in the space as a major manufacturer of tires.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So
That's really cool.
It is really interesting that there's another tire that everybody figured we'd probably give the green light or the rubber stamp to that we have not. And then the tire that people probably thought we weren't going to, we did. But that's all.
Yeah. So I assume that's my next question is, do you see the Hoosier coming into being? Yeah, I didn't expect that.
There's a if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck situation. And love the folks at Hoosier. And I've driven the tire, obviously. I think the tire is great, but it is
not enough tread.
It's not enough tread, and there's inherent benefits to the way that you do that with that tread depth.
Sure.
That other manufacturers who do, it would change the face of the 200 treadwear tire game immensely if we let that one in, because everybody else would go that direction, and it becomes less of a street tire.
Yeah, it goes back to what it used to
and
be in
goes on there.
autocross running stock class where you just buy A's, right?
Yeah.
It's very similar. What about there's a new 660?
The 660 plus, that's
just default allowed.
That's in, yeah. It's kind of like the CRS versus version 1 versus 2. It's not a wholesale change; it's a minor change. I mean, if the 660 plus came out and all of a sudden it was
massively faster, some
massive different thing, then we'd want to take a look at it. But I don't want people to think that we don't let tires in because they're going to perform too well. No, it's we want fast tires, right? Fast tires are awesome. Yeah. But we do want to look at what the intent behind a street tire is. And the intent behind a street tire is some longevity, usefulness. You can drive it on the street, that kind of thing. so we got to be really careful about how far we go down the road of not being those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just saving us from ourselves. You're saving our wallets.
And it's not just me, but yeah, that the idea is, we know you want this toy, but you don't really want this toy.
That's fair.
We've had these toys before. We've seen what happened.
Or if you want those toys, go run an unlimited.
Right.
Problem solved.
That's a bigger budget than I have, sir.
Hey, Jed has a lot of fun in unlimited, Trey.
On 200 heat cycle Hoosiers.
Yeah.
So they're dialed in.
They're,
I like that.
They're men.
I like that.
Consistent.
I'm gonna say that to Jed now every time I talk to him. We talk about his tires. Your tires are dialed in.
Yes, sir.
John, my last question is, how do I get you out here to Virginia for a weekend for an event? Like, you can go drive your girlfriend's car. It's still well cared for. I'm a huge fan. I drive it every day. It's the best daily driver I've ever owned. It almost beats my old Mercedes. Almost. It's this close.
The 3-day at the end of April is really the event he should come out for.
Yeah. We'd love to have you out here.
We'll have Romanowski here, most likely.
I think that's April into May becomes my busiest time of the year between events I work and events I'm leading, because like we're working on some stuff up here for a local. I'm trying to build a time attack stuff up here on a regional level, and working with a group that actually runs SCCA rules and SCCA classes that is not an SCCA region. They're actually out of Canada. But we're talking about next year making the events that they have in the States SCCA events. But one of the things we're going to do is they're going to be at Oregon Raceway Park on Sunday and Monday of Easter weekend. And I had the opportunity to get Portland on Saturday, which is 2.5 hours away from Oregon Raceway Park. So I was like, well, why don't we have 3-day event with 2 different tracks going on? And he's like, oh man, I've always wanted to do this thing where you have like 3 or 4 different tracks in the area and you do one each day, blah, blah. I'm like, well, it's funny that you mentioned that.
Funny, yeah.
That sounds like
familiar.
That sounds like the Chin Labor Day special, where they do they start out at pit race and then they go to Mid Ohio. So they're pit race Saturday, Sunday, and then they transition to pit race or Mid Ohio Monday and Tuesday.
Send me the details, John.
Yeah.
I will bribe James.
As soon as I have everything where I can set up, they've already got their stuff open on MSR Reg. We got to get MSR Reg built ourselves. But no, so it's like Road America the weekend before that. Then it's that weekend we have the 3-track thing, and then the next weekend is the Crows Pro, which I want to try to attend. And then I have to fly out immediately to get to Texas so I can run the Targa event into that, and then I have a weekend in between where I'm not doing anything between Eagles and NCM, and it's
a lot.
That it gets busy.
You need 3,
but it's still less busy than off season. It's busier than off season, but probably less cranium pounding than off season.
Yeah.
So I will extend an invitation for November. Come out, fly in. We'll take care of you. You could drive Type R and be a good time.
I do want to get out there. I do want to do an event. I'd love to drive, whether it be Summit or Dominion. I don't really care. I'd love to go to regions and just be there, participate, check it out. I do want to make that a thing. I also happen to love my home life a little bit too, so I like to try to be here every once in a while. So it's weighing all that and the funds to get places and stuff like that. So
don't you like your airline status?
What's that?
Don't you like your airline status?
You think I fly more than I do? I do a lot of driving.
You do a lot of driving. Yeah.
I got a free candy van that's black with a trailer.
I'm gonna cut a window into that van, just a little porthole.
By the way, I think Trey, the best way to entice me, and I love my Hondas, and I love my girlfriend's ex car, but the best way to entice me to get out there is to offer a seat and the person to your right for me into his car,
Oh yeah, I got you. That's fine. It's at my
As
house.
long as he's fixed the exhaust.
I have all the parts for that.
We have the
Oh.
parts, John. We have the technology.
I actually, most of my cars aren't even at my own house right now. They're just not here. I have Patrick's car. I have a Corvette. I have a WRX. I'm picking up a GTR tomorrow.
And people wonder why I thought you were a mechanic.
I fuck if I know.
He plays one on TV.
Definitely.
John, thank you so much for this.
Yeah,
This
thank
was
you, John.
A blast of a conversation. I want to have you here whenever you feel.
I'm down. You know, I love chatting with you guys. It's it's just fun. And I'm sorry that this was supposed to be 45 minutes, I think, and we've gone twice that now. So
Yeah,
we're good with
listeners
that.
who are like, is this ever going to end?
Yeah. That's the whole point. We're just bullshitting with friends and having conversation, trying to do things that everybody wants to do. So thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you guys. Appreciate
Thank
it. I look forward to seeing you guys sometime soon.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Come to Texas.
Yeah, the season starts soon. Oh.
Bye, guys.
All right. Bye, guys.
See you.